This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream. Get access to my streaming video service, Nebula, when you sign up for CuriosityStream using the link in the description. CuriosityStream is a subscription streaming service with thousands of documentaries and nonfiction titles. Interested in the science of how personality and mental disorders develop over a lifetime? Curious Minds Brain Health teams up with neurologists and neuroscientists to explore how recent advancements in technology have helped medical professionals diagnose, describe, and treat some of the common disorders discussed in this video. CuriosityStream is normally $19.90 a year, but if you go to curiositystream.com/Lindsay and use the code Lindsay, it's only $14.79 for the year, and you get access to our streaming service, Nebula. So go to curiositystream.com/Lindsay, use the code, which is also just my name, and in the meantime, Loki. I'm asking for safe passage through the anus. So then Q's Hoptopa show has been preoccupied with mental health. Oh, James, why does Sam aggravate you? And on to say something childish. First we had trauma as manifested by sci-fi magic and WandaVision. Look, we've all been there, right? Letting our fear and anger get the best of us, intentionally expanding the borders of the false world we created. Aha. Then we had Paxton, more trauma and lots of therapy with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Look, you've got to nurture friendships. I am the only person you have called all week. That is so sad. But then we took an interesting turn into a mental disorder that is extremely popular as a character trait, but rarely discussed in fiction with Loki. I am a narcissist. And then, of course, there was all this discourse reacting to the text of the show. Is Loki a narcissist? What an incredible seismic narcissist. Narcissism, or narcissistic personality disorders, is one of the more common personality disorders. So it is kind of surprising that it is so widely misunderstood, especially in light of other mental illnesses like bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder, or opus, gaining much wider awareness in the last 2 decades. Most people don't, usually because they know a narcissist or several, and the perception of what it is basically that of a psychopath with particularly high self-esteem. Narcissists are primarily defined by their lack of empathy. You know what happens when someone upsets them. When someone upsets someone, what happens See how I do it. So there are so many fictional narcissists in media. Narcissists make great antagonists and often sometimes even fun protagonists. This perfect world begins and ends with me. It's fun to watch characters who are blind to their own faults and lack self-awareness. Something less conspicuous. Processing, processing. Why am I so amazing? In comedies, narcissists are, well, comedy gold because we get to enjoy the juxtaposition of how they see themselves versus the reality of how other people see them. You know, desire smells like that to some people. What is that? It smells like a turd covered in burnt hair. The MCU has several prominent characters to which the word narcissist has been applied. Obviously, Loki is up there. Then, of course, there's Thanos. Thanos exercises power to wipe out half the universe because he believes he is the only one with the right solution to what he sees as a sickness. And, of course, he sees his children as an extension of himself and loves them. If you re-saying I play favorites, you re-wrong. I love all me children equally. I don't care for Nebula. Loves them extremely conditionally. In order to take the stone, you must lose that which you love. You failed because you love nothing. No one. You will be in my heart hell. One of the main characters of the MCU, Tony Stark, debatably tiptoes up to the line of qualifying for the disorder. It is one thing to question the official story and another thing entirely to make wild accusations or insinuate that I am a superhero. I never said you were a superhero. Didn't. Mom. Well, good, because that would be outlandish and fantastic. In order to better understand what the disorder is, before we get into Loki, let's walk through what might qualify someone for having it using everyone's favorite narcissistic mother, Lucille Bluth. Everything I do is so dramatic and flamboyant. It just makes me wanna set myself on fire. Narcissistic personality disorder is defined by the presence of at least 5 of the following 9 criteria: a grandiose sense of self-importance. What the hell was I supposed to do? Michael Moore confronted me in front of the whole country. First of all, it wasn't Michael Moore. It was a Michael Moore look-alike, and it wasn't in front of the whole country. It was for a bit when Jimmy came alive. I don't know who that is, and I don't care to find out. A preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. Tell me the truth. Okay. Because there's been a lot of lying in this family. And a lot of love. A belief that he or she is special and unique, and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high-status people or institutions. Are you aware that we've been downgraded to being just pool members at the club now? Yeah. It's a real shame what's going on with this family. You re-stuck by the pool, and Dad's getting picked last for softball. A need for excessive admiration. It's not just mother-boy. It's mother-boy 30. And I think with you, I've got a shot. A sense of entitlement. What's Spanish for? I know you speak English. Interpersonally exploitative behavior. Did you and Dad adopt a child? He must have forged me signature. Well, then maybe I'll get a son who will finish his cottage cheese. A lack of empathy. I want to crease so bad. I don't think I can spare the moisture. One lousy cigar rip. Oh, honey, they re-just heels. They can only support so much weight. Envy of others, or a belief that others are envious of him or her. She's trying to prove that she's closer to me children than I am, but the joke's on her because she doesn't know how little I care for Joe. A demonstration of arrogant and haughty behaviors or attitudes. Take it back. If I wanted something your thumb touched, I'd eat the inside of your ear. So these are just some criteria, but there are many more behaviors and symptoms associated with the disorder. I know when I'm not wanted. Narcissists don't feel responsible for their own conduct, but they will always hold others accountable for any transgression, real or imagined. Narcissists have an almost comically short memory for their own behaviors and will frequently rewrite history to suit their own narrative. I put the fires out. You made them worse. Worse or better. Narcissists are also perpetual victims. They often use the language of social justice to reassure others that their victimhood is quite real. That palace you live in, up there on that hill. I gave me life to me children on a silver platter. The admiration of others is a salve to shield them from the perception of vulnerability. It's important to remember that victimhood and vulnerability are not the same thing. I was the world's nicest guy and they ruined my life for no reason. They always say, See, just like I said, I'm the victim here. But while narcissists frequently frame themselves as the victims of injustice, they tend to be outraged when other people claim victimhood, especially when it counters their own narrative. You are fake crying. That is not real. As a victim of abuse myself. Oh me God. You are so manipulative. God, oh me God. I was molested. I have been, oh me gosh. Ivy learned I am an empath. Right. Narcissists also aren't capable of love in the way that neurotypical people are, which is why it's so hard for the children of narcissists to admit that their parents are in fact narcissists, because it's difficult to accept that your parent doesn't really love you in a way that a parent should, because narcissistic parents don't see their children as autonomous people, but as extensions of themselves. I see a strong, confident, beautiful young lady. Oh, look, we're here too. I am just teasing. Stop taking everything so seriously. Narcissists seek affection and approval, but remain indifferent to any harm they themselves cause. Interpersonal boundaries to a narcissist are a form of abuse. After everything we done for you, that I didn't ask for. Do you have any idea of the work you're undoing? Love to a narcissist isn't caring for another person's emotional needs, but controlling them. But suddenly he's too much of a big shot to brush mother's hair. Well, I'm not. Now, with all that said, there are a lot of common misconceptions of narcissism. The first is that all narcissists are extremely self-confident. They re all so beautiful. Why don't I have three heads? Oh, this is funny. This is not true. What appears as confidence is often a thin veneer, hiding feelings of shame, self-doubt, and self-hatred. Obsessive self-loathing is a form of narcissism. Narcissists are usually oblivious to hurt they cause others. Often hurtful behavior is just collateral damage to having their emotional needs met. I do everything I can to help you, and all you can do is drink and talk nonsense and frighten me. Go back to bed. Narcissists are evil. I told White that there is honor in losing, which, as we all know, is completely ridiculous. But there is, however, honor in making a loser feel better, which is what I just did for Dwight. The reality is that narcissists may behave in hurtful ways, but they are not inherently evil. Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me. Narcissistic personality disorder does not implicate any kind of off-kilter moral barometer. There's nothing wrong with a narcissist's impulse control or their ability to tell right from wrong. Quite the opposite in some ways. Narcissists are not only able to discern right from wrong, they for the most part want to do right because they want to be liked. For me to be attracted to a woman, she has to be as intelligent or slightly less intelligent than me, and she is, you know. Narcissists all come from a background of privilege. People have a very specific idea that narcissists come from a certain background. They are privileged, they come from wealth and power, and that is sometimes true, but anyone from any background can develop the disorder. Although there is no one cause for narcissism, it rarely emerges in people who come from stable, loving families. I'd rather smother them with a pillow than take them to Nevada. Always with the drama. It is often the result of trauma or emotional neglect, and for those who perceive wealth and power, the wealth and power is used to shield an incredibly fragile ego. You clearly don't know who you re-talking to, so let me clue you in. I am not in danger, Schuyler. I am the danger. A guy opens his door and gets shot. And you think that a fun. No, I am the one who knocks. But one of the more common misconceptions is the conflation of narcissism with psychopathy. This idea that narcissists don't experience hurt or pain or even their own, you know, version of love. When you leave my heart, narcissists, especially female narcissists, actually live in a constant state of anxiety, and boy, do they want you to know that. Hope you have children of your own and they treat you like this. They gave me life to me children on a silver platter. This is bullshit. So here, why narcissists aren't just psychopaths with high self-esteem. Psychopaths don't really care what other people think of them. They don't care about their lives and they don't experience empathy, where a narcissist is defined by a preoccupation with what other people think of them. They are constantly reshaping themselves to fit whatever mold they think will serve them best. I am Prison Mike. You know why they call me Prison Mike. Do you really expect us to believe you re somebody else? Do you really expect me to not push you up against the wall, biatch? Some narcissists do this by being charming. I am a writer, a doctor, a nuclear physicist, a theoretical philosopher. But above all, I am a man. You re a hopelessly inquisitive man, just like you. Some by being manipulative. Tears aren't a woman's only weapon. Some by being controlling and some downright authoritarian. It's the unspoken truth of humanity that you crave subjugation. But a true narcissist doesn't live in a state of cold self-assuredness. Rather, they live in a constant state of anxiety and hypervigilance. You don't know what goes through this mind of mine. Well, that's for fucking sure. But narcissism in itself is not unhealthy. There is what is called healthy narcissism, and it is healthy to exhibit some narcissistic traits. You do actually need some narcissism for a healthy functioning psyche. And that is the sort of thing that lets you stand up for yourself when you are being treated unfairly. I am Achillesi of the Dothrege. The next time you raise a hand to me will be the last time you have hands. So with all that groundwork out of the way, the big question is Loki a narcissist? Sorry about that time he turned you into a frog. It was a wonderful joke. Was indeed hilarious. Well, depends on which Loki. The most lovable version of Loki, the Loki from Thor Ragnarok. I have been falling for 30 minutes. Is probably the most narcissistic. The movie begins with him watching a plague glorifying his part in the previous film. I'm sorry about that thing with the Tesseract. I just couldn't help myself. I'm a trickster. This is so mischievous. He spends the entire movie caring not at all about Thor or whatever is going on in Sakar. Feels no empathy for Thor when he's getting the shit kicked out of him. In fact, enjoys it as a form of retribution. That's how it feels. I'm just a huge fan of the sport. And in the end, any altruistic action he takes is ultimately because it's the best action for him. Suddenly you overcome with an urge to do the right thing. Heavens no. I ran out of faith with the Grand Master, and in exchange for codes and access to a ship, I'm asking for safe passage through the anus. And sure, he saves the day at the end, but not out of a sense of empathy, but out of the correct sense that this path is the one that will get him the most adulation. Your savior is here. Contrast this with the Loki. He displays narcissistic traits, but basically completely falls short of having the disorder in the very first episode. I don't enjoy hurting people. I do it because I have to, because he had to. It's the cruel, elaborate trick counted by the weak to inspire fear. A desperate play for control. He loves his mother, not as an extension of himself, but for her own sake, and is protective of her safety. Where is he? Now why don't you tell me, do you enjoy hurting people? I don't believe you. Do you enjoy killing? I'll kill you. What, like you did your mother? Sylvie is self-taught, but Loki. Someone taught you fairly decent magic. My mother. Then there's the interaction with Sif where he comes to a conclusion about his personal failings on his own. I crave attention because I am a narcissist. It's because I am scared of being alone. A true narcissist would continue to deflect blame when confronted with all of the timeline stuff he had in store for him. He wouldn't accept responsibility, and he certainly wouldn't have an honest come to Jesus moment after being punched in the head 400 times by the same person. I am a narcissist. He might say something manipulative to get her to stop hitting, but the Sif time loop would not bring about an honest moment of self-reflection in a true narcissist. Again, narcissists are eternal victims. They are pathologically incapable of self-reflection if it doesn't come from an outside source that they care about. Also, vulnerability is anathema to a narcissist, but Loki allows himself to be vulnerable several times. Most relevant to the discussion in the discourse, and indeed in the show itself, is what he sees in Sylvie, his alternate universe self, specifically in the moments before he thinks they were both about to die. You were just a child when they took you, but you nearly took down the organization that claims to govern the order of time. You did it on your own. You had rings around them. You re-amazing. Clearly there are elements of him looking at her and seeing aspects of what he could have been, but ultimately the virtues that he appreciates in Sylvia aren't really virtues that he shares. A common tactic when narcissists compliment other people is that they are really complimenting themselves. But Loki isn't doing that here. Like, They re variations on the same person, but they are still two completely different people. The contradiction of Loki as a show is that much of the tension comes from Loki's history of narcissism. His history of narcissism is what makes him the most likely in the room to betray anyone at any given point. You really good at doing awful things and then just getting away. What can I say? I am a mischievous scamp. While at the same time, Loki is most likely to do whatever it takes to be liked or gain power. There's this constant tension of will he betray Mobius? Will he betray Sylvie? Mobius, come on. What could possibly go wrong? We gotta properly test this theory. Well, here's a fun theory. You lure me out into the field and then you stab me in the back, and that's a theory I don't want to test. I can't sleep in a place like this. You can't sleep on a train. No, I can't sleep around untrustworthy people. But in the end, aside from a couple of very justified moments of self-preservation, the Loki in the show betrays nobody. 6 episodes, nary a betrayal that wasn't earned. I am staying. I am saying. Which is why the ending, Sylvie's assumption that he intends to betray her while the rando at the end of time chews the scenery, makes the conclusion of the show ring kind of hollow. You want the throne. The throne. No. No, Sylvie, this does not comport with the person that you have been interacting with during this series. That's what you think of me. After all this time. Sure, why not? Evil Loki's master plan comes together. Because the Loki you have been interacting with never acted like a self-serving narcissist. He's actually pretty self-sacrificial. You've both risked your life for each other several times by now. Loki, I don't even know if this is gonna work. You go, I go. It's almost like you've been watching all the movies we saw before this. So from movie to movie to the show, I think it's fair to say that Loki's writing is inconsistent. It is not a disorder that you can character arc your way out of. By definition, it is incurable. So if you want to incorporate the Loki of Disney Plus Loki into Loki's greater journey, but I don't think he's badly written. But he's not an honest portrayal of a narcissist. 10 is a true narcissist. I give him a 7, maybe an 8. Absolutely not. This is fine and guardian leader. But this is not to say that the MCU doesn't have anything meaningful to say about narcissism. The best, most honest portrayal in the MCU of a narcissist is not Loki, nor is it Thanos, but my name is Ego, and I'm your dad, Peter. Oh, have we found an excuse to fawn over Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 again? Yes, 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 we have. I thought Yondu was your father. You look exactly alike. One's blue. So in a lot of ways, Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 is the rare movie that makes the first one better in retrospect. A lot of the boomer nostalgia from the first movie that just felt kind of random and atmospheric and maybe a little pandery. Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Then bring it down hard. Now, with the context of the second movie, feels a lot more thoughtful. Take, for instance, the soundtracks and the song in Guardians 2 that serves as a through line. You know Brandy by Looking Glass. On first blush, when we first meet Kid Kurt Russell and Peter Small, you like, yeah, that's a fun 70s love song. How quaint. I will take one nostalgia, please. This is Brandy, such a motherland. But as the movie unfolds, the ugly undertones become more and more apparent. You know, Peter, you and I, we read the sailor in that song. The sailor in the song doesn't care about Brandy at all. He's all about his own pleasure, his own goals, and he frames it like it's a good, fun thing. C calls upon him as history calls upon great men. There is zero remorse in the song, which is why we rehear today. We re going to be together for a long time. We re going to be together for a long time. To be together though for a long time. We re going to be together for a long time. There is zero remorse in the song, which is why Ego is drawn to it, and to a certain extent Peter. It was one of Earth's greatest musical compositions. Perhaps it's the very greatest. Yes. Guardians too is about family, what makes one, but largely it's also about how ego negatively affects relationships, both the literal character ego and the concept of narcissism itself. They told me you people were conceited Dutch bags, but that isn't true at all. Rocket steals batteries because the sovereign offended his ego. The sovereign's motivation for revenge throughout the entire movie is ego. Our concern is they re-slight against our people. Peter and Rocket nearly kill everybody trying to prove that they are the superior pilot ego. Gator, we almost died because of your arrogance. So ego operates as the perfect portrait of a narcissist. He can't understand other people's motivations that don't to directly serve him. But instead of returning you, Yondu kept you. I have no clue as to why. And challenging questions that center other people's needs. Why didn't you come back? Why did you send Yondu, a criminal of all people, to come? Well, we just gonna change the subject. I've made many mistakes, Peter, but you not one of them. There's so much that I need to teach you about this planet. But at the same time, ego is also good at charming people. And with Peter, he's good at giving Peter validation that feels like validation, but really it's just ego complimenting himself. Who the hell are you? Figured my rugged good looks would make that obvious. I can explain your very special heritage. Out of all me spawn, only you carry the connection to the light. But most of all, he sees everyone as either an extension of himself or a potential extension of himself. Peter is valuable to him when Peter is willing to perform that role, but the second he behaves autonomously. You really need to grow up. But like ego, Peter is also extremely narcissistic. That's why he nearly falls for ego's plan. Well, it's because that place was real and this is a fantasy. I get it. You read jealous because I'm part God and you like when I'm the weak one. Ego tells him he is special. He's powerful. And without the planet that is ego, he's not special anymore. You are a god. If you kill you all be just like everybody else. Peter's narcissism is the main thing getting in the way with his relationship with Gamora because, well, she's already lived through escaping one narcissist in her life. So her hesitation is very understandable. This is why I hate Infinity War. Anyway, this line, for instance. You know what? This is not Cheers after all. I don't know what Cheers is. It's played for laughs, but it's very revealing. He's whining about his needs and he dozed, even care that she dozed to know what he's talking about. My life, my love, my lady is the sea. There's a lot of heavy stuff in this movie that is couched in comedy. Arguably by necessity, because if you seriously mull on what's happening in certain scenes. Yondu is the guy who abducted me, kicked the crap out of me so I could learn to fight and kept me in terror by threatening to eat me. It's actually pretty disturbing. You said you were gonna eat me. That was being funny, not tone. But the other side of the coin to the effects of the narcissistic parent is Mantis, who is functionally also ego's child. He raised me by hand and kept me as his own. So you re-up it. I suppose. Mantis is an empath. You re-empathic, so an empath. Ivy heard that before. Ivy learned I am an empath. Right. No, Shane, like a real one. Empaths feel feelings. Particularly relevant because narcissists prey on other people's empathy. Children of narcissistic parents frequently learn to shape-shift as a survival mechanism. The first thing Mantis does in the film is laugh at Drax's practical joke, even though she clearly hates it. That is called a practical joke. He likes it very much. It's not too boring to say that you refine and you not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would children of narcissists tend to either be pathological pleasers or very cold. They either exhaust themselves in a lifetime of trying to please the unpleasable. A child my father would have gamere in me both to one another in training. Every time me sister prevailed, my father would replace a piece of me with machinery. Or they stonewall every time they enter an intimate relationship with every time there's conflict. So a lot of Mantis scenes are couched in comedy because she is deeply traumatized. So a lot of the expression of her trauma is framed for laughs because this gross bug lady is my new friend. I'm learning many things like pet and ugly. Otherwise it would be a bit too heavy in a movie like this. I'm very popular, all. So given the way the NQ utilizes narcissists/protagonists who, while not being narcissistic to the point of disorder, are extremely narcissistic, there is a success here. We love narcissistic characters. We see the narcissism of the protagonist in ourselves, and the narcissism of the villains is just fun to watch. They are memorable. I am a god, you dull creature. And I will not be bullied by so it's interesting to me that we hate Earl narcissists so much. Why is that? In some ways, it's the same reason why addicts loathe the alcoholics or why people with anger issues loathe domestic abusers. We hate the most in others the thing we fear the most in ourselves. So the funny thing about Loki is we love Loki the narcissist, as long as the word narcissist wasn't trotted out, because the moment it is trotted out, what a incredible seismic narcissist. He has to stop being a narcissist in order to remain likable. And then suddenly he's Mr. Empathy. His behavior is no longer disordered but relatable. He's no longer a narcissist, but wrestling with his own narcissism. But wrestling with his no longer a narcissist. This isn't about you. That said, it's really common for people to talk about having been in relationships with people with other personality disorders, and maybe it was extremely difficult. But they don't talk about those people in terms of a condition that must be fundamentally avoided. It's framed as a mental illness. So why don't we talk about narcissists in the same way? Why are narcissists always spiders who capture people in their web rather than people with behavioral disorders that don't have the tools to manage their disorder? The worst thing about narcissists is that they re-narcissists. Most of them want to be good people. They thrive off validation. The worst thing about narcissists is they never seek treatment for their condition because they don't want the stigma of being a narcissist. So therefore, they never admit that they are, and they never stop hurting the people that they care about, in their way. This is especially true for narcissistic parents of adult children. Why did you adopt him? Because I wanted someone to love. Don't you act for me? Again, this is a really common thing children of narcissists will notice about their parents. They believe they are good people doing the right thing, and they just don't understand why their children don't want to talk to them, no matter how many times their children have explained it. Both Yondu and Ego were shit parents. Ego, the narcissist, and Yondu, the abusive and neglectful adoptive father. But in the end, One of them was able to see their child as more than just an extension of themselves. And that is what sets him apart as a parent. I am sorry I didn't do none of it right. I am damn lucky you really boy. So fictional narcissists occupy an interesting space with regard to the way we engage with real-life narcissists. Frost giants and mad additins and living planets aren't real, but people with narcissistic personality disorder are. And according to some studies, up to 5 of all humans have narcissistic personality disorder. A lot of people claim to have narcissistic parents, not because it's trendy, well, not just because it's trendy, but also just because it's a really common disorder. So what have we learned from these fictional examples of how to deal with narcissists? Well, either they character arc their way into a cure or we kill them. A narcissist can't cure their condition in the same way that someone with less stigmatized disorders like major depression or borderline personality disorder or bipolar disorder can't cure theirs. But that doesn't mean they can't evolve or improve as people. It's not curable, but it is treatable. And the hardest hurdle here is usually to get the narcissist to want treatment in the first place. So aside from a pretty disappointing last episode, I really did enjoy Loki, and I don't want to imply that the show is a failure because it made him less narcissistic in the service of making him more likable. I just think that the result is a show that doesn't have a lot to say about narcissism despite trying to. And it leaves me wondering, is it even possible to destigmatize narcissistic personality disorder in the way that things like bipolar disorder or major depression have lost their stigma in the last few decades? And if so, what would that look like? Disney is an evil mega hydra that is rapidly covering the land in darkness. But there is something to be said for the fact that not only do they feel safe making these narratives, but that they've turned them into some of the most popular television of the streaming era so far. I did really touch on The Falcon and the Winter Soldier because, honestly, I thought it was pretty boring. But I do think it's worth mentioning that this is the only one of these series that integrates any discussion on therapy or how to live with mental illness, which Loki doesn't, because, it's not that kind of show. Not every piece of media that deals with mental illness needs to integrate some portion about like medication or therapy or whatever. Are you still having nightmares? But if you look at these three and how they all take such different approaches to exploring mental illness through fiction, it's interesting that this is such a through line with the new direction Marvel is going. Ask your doctor about Nexus, a unique antidepressant that works to ensure you back to your reality or the reality of your choice. Side effects include feeling your feelings, confronting your truth, seizing your destiny, and possibly more depression. Right now, it's less here is the conflict and more how did the conflict shape these characters, which does kind of become a problem with shows like WandaVision, where in the end, we still kind of have to punch our way out of the conflict. But whatever, it's been nominated for like 80 Emmys. Clearly they are redoing something right. And a killed Sparky too. So I don't want to give Disney too much credit here, but I think there is some value to these pop culture artifacts designed for mass consumption normalizing these discussions, because I've seen it help a lot of people find the language for their own traumas, or even in the case of Loki, their own relationship to their own narcissism that maybe they haven't really processed yet. And I can only surmise that you guys are hungry for more content about toxic narcissistic parents. So smooth. My bad. So me first book Axum's End is a candle deal of the month. It's only $2.99 on Amazon for the entire month of September. It also just came out in paperback. There's paperback. Treat me books very well. And if you want to know how this ties in with the theme of narcissistic parents, well, I guess you'll just have to read it to find out. And if you're into exploring trauma using science fiction and aliens and stuff. My second book comes out on October 12th. This is not the final version, so I'm allowed to have used this one. This is an advanced reader copy. They throw these in their cycling once the real book comes out. Anyway, you can pre-order signed copies of that in the link below, but maybe you're just not satisfied. You need more content. You insatiable. And maybe you wondering where do I keep all me videos that are too spicy for YouTube. Well, that's where Nebula comes in. I have several video essays that you can only watch on Nebula. The Streamy Award-nominated Nebula, saying that 5 times fast, is a video streaming platform built for and by creators like Sarah, Maggie Mayfish, Big Joel, myself, but not ContraPoints. And if you want access to me hot takes that are too spicy for YouTube, you get access to our streaming service Nebula when you go to curiositystream.com/Lindsay and use the code, which is also my name, and you get access to several Nebula original videos that are and already made, exploring topics like Tropic Thunder, all the trends it destroyed through parody that is so and could Blazing Saddles be made today? God damn it. Why are people still asking this? Excuse me while I whip this out. So thank you for watching. Thank you for support. And I'll see you next time. And suddenly you overcome with an urge to do the right thing. Heavens no. I ran out of faith with the Grand Master, and in exchange for codes and access to a ship, I'm asking for safe passage through the anus. Through the anus. Through the anus. Through the anus. Why the hell is there an alligator in here? Through the anus. Through the anus. Anus. I was a king. The rightful king of anus. Through the anus. I still need that anus. I've come too far for anything else. Anus. I am Loki the Asgard, and I am burdened with glorious anus. Anus. Through the anus. The anus. That's why I need to get out of here. The anus. My army, my anus. I have to get off this planet. Anus.